Just look at what once was an abandoned Laguna Seca Blue E46 M3. She looks incredible.
Look me in my eyes, you can try me if you want. We don't got the same drive, you can try me if you want.
But she is far from finished. In fact, saying far from finished is a little bit unfair. There's just a little bit more to do.
But saying that the M3 has came a long way is an understatement. This car was absolutely battered.
Now, if you've been following the E46 build, then you'll know that I found this car abandoned on the side of a racetrack. I made an offer, I bought it, and then I've since worked through so many problems with it. A lot of those problems being common problems for the E46, and some of them not so common. I've replaced the steering rack, fixed the oil leak, changed the rod bearings, fixed the crack in the rear boot floor, changed the diff, changed many different bushes, changed the wheels, changed the full interior, the dashboard, the steering wheel, and so many more. Now, since getting her back on the road and getting her road legal, I've been dailying the E46 just to go through everything with a fine-tooth comb to make sure there's no teething issues. And there is.
Not only is there teething issues, there's some things which I feel BMW could have done a lot better on.
Now, the eagle-eyed viewers may notice behind these new lights that have appeared on the dashboard, which we'll get onto later, we've got a new Alcantara steering wheel. Well, actually, this isn't a new steering wheel, this is just a cover. This was stitched on by Auto Accessories UK. It's got M Sport stitching and it sort of gives it that OEM Plus look. But before we head back to the unit, I needed to do a quick stop off at Bilstein, and you'll see why later in the video. Now, all of this should just about finish off the E46 M3 before it goes to paint, but I don't even know where to start.
We've got upgrade parts and parts to fix it, but I think we should start with the fixing aspect.
Now, on camera, the paint on the E46 doesn't look too bad, but up close, it's pretty bad. But before paint, I want to address the new lights that have appeared on the dashboard, and we'll do so by using Carly Connect Car, who have sponsored today's video. Carly is an OBD device that plugs directly into your car and then can be connected via an iPhone or an Android. You may have seen me use Carly before in previous videos on the Audi as well, as it is really handy just to have. Right now I can read all the fault codes with the E46, and there's a fair amount, but some may be historic, but all of these can be cleared off and then read again so we can find out the one which is causing that yellow light on the dashboard, which I believe to be this fault, steering angle sensor. But just to be sure, let's clear the codes first. Okay, so my bet, those lights are going to be on because of that steering angle sensor, and it's either faulty or needs resetting. Now, when I start the car after the codes are being cleared now, we should see whether they go out or not. And they're still there. So we either have a faulty steering angle sensor, or possibly it needs to be reset or calibrated to the car. I'm not too sure yet. And that's not the only thing you can do with the Carly device. You can actually code and unlock hidden features with it as well.
One thing that is kind of annoying with the E46, when I unlock the car, no lights, no indicators or no side lights tell me that the car has been opened.
But right here, I should be able to turn optical confirmation of unlocking the vehicle on and code it to the car, and also on for locking the car as well.
Now let's see if that has worked. We should get a little optical check and a sound check even now. So lock, yes, unlock. Come on!
And we're not even touching the surface here. There's so much more I can do and customise using that device. This thing is really good when going to buy a used car because you can check all the faults that it's got. Or maybe you're like me and you do your servicing at home, and with this, you can just reset your service lights. And it can also read live data such as oil temperature, coolant temperature, or RPM. So if you wanted to grab a Carly, I put a link in the description box below and a discount code as well. Thank me later. Now, before I calibrate the steering angle sensor, I wanted to do a slight upgrade because this is just not acceptable. The gear throw is so long, and after daily driving it, it is really getting on my nerves. So I couldn't resist and I bought one of these. This is an eBay special short shifter for the M3.
And this should reduce that gear throw, but there's only one way to find out.
Now to access the gear linkage, it's a little tricky, as you may remember from some previous videos. It is above the exhaust and it's above the prop shaft as well. So first thing I'm going to do is start removing the front section of the exhaust, disconnecting the lambda sensors and the exhaust clamps front and rear, and Hannah helped me lower it down. Then there's a heat shield to move out of the way. And we should be able to gain access to it without removing the prop shaft. You can just see it just above there. There's a small C-clip which connects the gear stick to the actual linkage. I need to pop that out and then the gear stick should come loose. Now we can lower the car down with a little dance and pull the actual gear stick out of the center console. And here goes the replacement, the eBay special short shifter, which I have absolutely no idea how it's going to make this shifting any shorter. This slots into the center console, then it's held in by this little C-clip here, which is quite tricky to get on. But once I got that C-clip on, I could then pop in the gear linkage into the new short shifter and then add that C-clip back onto that, and that should do the trick. I am not sure how this has made it a short shifter, but check this out. Gear 1, 2, 3, 4. How close are the gears together now? Make sure I can get reverse. I mean, I can't remember what was. Oh, reverse is all the way over there, wasn't it? Yeah, that's it. How on earth does that work? I don't know, but that was money well spent. Hopefully it drives all right. I've got to put the gear knob all back together. Then we're on to the next mod/upgrade. So now it's just a case of putting everything back together, and I have done with a little upgrade, the Alcantara gear gator, just to match the steering wheel. Upgrades and more modifications. I know I said I wasn't going to modify the car, but I like to see this as doing BMW a favour.
Inside this box here, quite obviously, is a set of Bilstein coilovers. Now this M3 does have coilovers fitted to it at the minute, BC Racing ones.
I've never actually had an issue with BC Racing coilovers before, but the ones that are fitted to this car are really old, and after dailying it, the suspension, well, it's almost unbearable.
So we're going to freshen them up with some upgraded, nice Bilstein coilovers, which of course are tested on the Nürburgring, where I'd love to take this thing when it's finished.
So here we have a set of Bilstein B14 coilovers with height adjustment and damper adjustment. All we've got to do is take off the old BC Racing coilovers, which on these E46s is a pretty easy job. Drop link to remove first, then there's just one bolt holding the damper to the hub, and then it's onto the top mount bolts. This is my new car. How many of us have done that before? Dropped a bolt into the engine bay and prayed it hit the floor. But after that little hiccup, here are the old BC Racing coilovers which we removed. Nothing wrong with BC Racing coilovers, but we have some fresh Bilsteins to pop on. Before we pop the new ones on, I wanted to go to the rear and remove the old ones off there, which again is a pretty easy job. One damper bolt at the bottom, and then I should be able to pull the spring out of the rear arm. And then to remove the dampers, I need to bring the car back down, and then there's two bolts holding the damper inside the car. Now there's one thing that I've just realised, that the Bilstein coilovers actually use the stock top mounts, and we've taken off BC Racing coilovers which use aftermarket top mounts, so I've had to order the stock top mounts on BMW. Luckily the ones for the rear dampers were on the BC Racing coilovers, but I couldn't fit the rears anyway because there's a sort of rubber mount which is supposed to sit on this arm here which we're missing, so again that's going to come from BMW. So whilst I wait for those parts, I thought it was best to change the rear discs. The rear discs are just looking a little bit tired. Just got to pop my screwdriver through one of the holes there just to adjust the handbrake, and then the caliper can go back on. So right now I'm pretty stumped without those original top mounts for that suspension, but hopefully tomorrow I'll be able to pick them up from Sytner and get the Bilsteins on and get it moving out. Now there's one upgrade that I've been dying to do that I don't really understand why the E46 left the factory like this. So these are the original brake discs and calipers that come on an E46 M3, and they are absolutely tiny. I've seen bigger brakes on a Vauxhall Corsa. Now the brakes aren't bad, but I know a lot of people upgrade the E46 M3 brakes. A lot of people put on the CSL style brakes, a lot of people upgrade them to the M4 brakes, but this is something that, well, I've not seen very often. This brake disc is off an E92 BMW M3 and it is absolutely huge. I actually can't remember the proper size of this thing, but it's massive. It is absolutely massive. Now this is the part that's going to cause a fair amount of controversy. These are 6-pot AMG calipers which are actually off the C63. Now I still don't know whether these are actually going to work. They are Brembo calipers and they are used across loads of different Volkswagen, Audi cars, and apparently they might, well they will fit, there's no doubt about it. Now I've already mentioned it, but these calipers are 6-pot, and what I mean by that, there is 3 pistons on each side of the caliper pushing the brake pads against the brake disc. Now whilst those extra pistons aren't going to give us more braking force, they are going to give us a much bigger surface area between the brake pads and the brake disc, therefore hopefully making the braking a lot better. So let's try and fit some AMG parts to a BMW. I know that's like the anti-cross, come on. Now I'm hoping this works, but when doing any modifications to a car with parts that aren't really supposed to be fitted to the car, there's bound to be issues. But we'll soon find out. First I've got to remove the brake disc and the old caliper. Then on go the E92 M3 brake discs, which are looking absolutely huge compared to the old ones. And then this part which is going to make the whole thing work. This is a caliper carrier specially made for the AMG brakes to fit onto a BMW M3. This carrier simply just bolts onto the wheel hub and uses the same bolt holes that the old caliper would use. You may notice I had to take the disc off because I had to remove the heat shielding as it was rubbing on the disc. With that done, I can put the disc back on and then test fit the caliper. I've definitely missed a trick here, haven't I? I'll explain the no bonnet in the next video, but the brakes that I've literally just fitted to the E46 are exactly the same as these ones on my C63. Why didn't I just do a big brake upgrade on this and then take the calipers off this and put them on my E46? Sometimes I just don't think straight, but the top mounts have arrived. Look at the complexity of the top mount on the E46. You've got like a washer, then you've got a rubber mount, a bearing, and then the actual top mount here, which then has a washer and then of course a bolt which holds it all down. This would have been quite expensive from BMW, but luckily I used my discount code, which you guys could use as well in the description. Now we can get the suspension fitted and then we can carry on with the brakes. Let's do it. So it goes washer, rubber mount, bearing, metal top mount plate, another washer, and then a bolt, and then tighten it up. I can guide it up into the wheel well, and Hannah puts on the 3 top mount bolts for me, and then I can bolt everything up from underneath afterwards. I've preloaded the suspension with my jack, as many of you guys mentioned before that I needed to do. Just check out how close that new brake disc is to the track rod end. Millimeters of fitment. Now I have that rubber mount from BMW, I can put the Bilstein springs and the adjusters onto the rear arm. Feed up the dampers into the wheel well, whilst Hannah pops on the 2 bolts at the top. And then refit the whole bottom end of the rear suspension. Now one thing that I am going to need to make these brakes work are braided brake lines. They needed to be a special size, and of course a braided hose is much better than the rubber hose. So I'm going to remove the rubber hose now and screw in the braided hose. At the the end of the braided hose which connects to the caliper, we have what we call a banjo fitment. A special bolt goes into the caliper where you use a copper washer on one side and then a copper washer on the other. And we're just about there, but not before bleeding the brakes. Here's my little kit that I bought, of course, off eBay. It uses a vacuum to pull out any air out of the caliper into that little bottle that you can see me attaching the hoses to now. These calipers have two bleed nipples, one on the inside of the caliper and one on the outside. I'm going to start on the inside and then move to the outside and just keep repeating until I've got no air left in the system. And there we have fresh brake discs, fresh calipers and new suspension. And that should just about do it, but here's me thinking it's going to be clever fitting AMG 6-pot brakes to an M3. I don't even know if the wheels are going to fit now. I do have this 15mm spacer, which we were running anyway, which I think we've got to run, well, we're definitely going to have to run, hopefully to bring the wheel out to stop it from rubbing on there. I just don't know whether it's going to clear this section here. Here we go. Oh my God, please fit. Oh, it's looking good. It's looking like we've got clearance. Right, this is the moment of truth. One bolt. We've got clearance, come on. So before I go out and test everything and make sure everything works, I've just came to Mallory to nick the Autel because we're going to be resetting or hopefully calibrating the steering angle sensor, and that will tell us whether it's broke or whether I can just get away with using the same one. So what
the wheel's precisely straight.
So the wheel is straight. Now when Fabian clicks the button, it should calibrate it. Yeah?
I hope so. Steering angle 0. There's no steering angle.
Okay,
no angle.
No angle. So if I start the car, I'm hoping those yellow lights will now go off. Check that out. When do you ever see that on an old BMW? No lights on the dashboard. Not even a fuel light. I don't know how long that's going to last, but it's good so far. It didn't last long. We now have yellow lights and it is an ABS fault, and I've got a feeling I may have broke the ABS sensor when changing the brakes. I thought I was gonna, and well, yeah, I think it's broke. Now, even though I sort of guessed the ride height with the new Bilstein coilovers, it actually sits pretty nice. The Bilstein coilovers are obviously built for performance reasons and not really for sort of stance reasons, but it still sits really nicely. And now with these AMG brakes, I don't know what colour should we paint them. I feel like they need to be change of colour and probably a BMW sticker as well, so it doesn't trigger as many people that are probably triggered right now. So a successful day so far, and I've just remembered there is another fault that I wanted to get at. The bolsters in these seats are adjustable, so they can inflate and also deflate as well with a touch of the button. The problem is I inflated them just to hug me a little bit more, and now this one doesn't deflate. But I'm not going to have the time to look at that now because we need to head to BMW. The E46 actually has two safety recalls, one for the passenger side airbag and one for the driver's side airbag. Apparently there's a known fault that it's got metal shards or something in the airbag, which is apparently unsafe, so we need to head to BMW. I'm not sure what they're going to think of the AMG brakes though. So this is the first time I've ever taken any of my cars to Sytner, and what a cool experience it was. You have a sort of drive-in reception where you just literally drive straight into the building. The car then goes in and goes through this sort of picture scanner which takes a full photo of the car, so I can't blame Sytner for any of the bad paint work after it's left. It also somehow checks the wheel alignment on this tool as well. God knows how that works. The key then goes into this machine here and it brings up a lot of the data about the car on this computer, like when the next service is due, the battery life and loads more. But once that was done, the M3 sat there waiting for its health check and some recall work. And straight away it seems one of the BMW lads may have noticed the AMG brakes almost straight away, but we'll see what the mechanic thinks about that in a minute. So check this out, we have got a brand new steering wheel airbag, nice and safe now, and a brand new passenger side airbag as well. Now they did find a few things wrong. Roll the clip.
Good afternoon, I'm Rich. I'm a tech working on your vehicle today. Obviously your vehicle is in for a recall, so have the passenger and driver airbag fitted, which have now been fitted.
Okay, so here's a video that you actually get sent from a technician at BMW that works on your car. So after this, Richard goes through doing a full health check of the car, showing me how much tread left on my tyre.
7.4mm are both in good order and both wearing evenly. BMW do recommend replacement at 3mm, so still plenty left on that.
Show me how much life my discs have.
Brakes, your front discs are in very good order.
And first thing he noticed were the brakes.
Got genuine brakes fitted.
He then goes through the rest of the car, checking the rear tyres, the rear brake discs, making sure that there's no oil leaks and no play in any bushes.
Just looking underneath the vehicle, no leaks from a differential or your drive shaft and drive shaft gaiters all look to be in good order.
And this actually made me really happy thinking about how far this car has actually came, because when we first looked underneath this car, it was an absolute mess.
No plate in any of the control arms or bushes. Or your exhaust system all looks to be in good order.
And now to have it checked over by a BMW technician and tell me that just about everything's okay gives me a lot of satisfaction. But there were a few things like this.
Just coming to the back of the car, your flexi hose actually on the driver's side rear, as you can see. You can get the camera in, it's actually chafing actually on the rear arm. You can see where it's sitting just inside there and it's rubbing through. So that would require addressing. Only thing I have found on this, also on the driver's side, is obviously the flexi hose that actually comes off the caliper is rubbing actually on the anti-roll bar link. I know it is braided hose, but obviously it can still chafe through after time. As you can see, it's already started damaging the outer core of the actual flexi. So we'll just require the flexi moving around. Your service advisor Sammy will be in touch with you shortly to let you know what happens next, and obviously if you've got any more questions, thank you very much for using Leicester.
So overall, a successful day on the E46. I need to get those flexi pipes sorted, but other than that, we're moving in the right direction. Thanks for watching this video. If you've enjoyed it, hit that subscribe button, hit that thumbs up button, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.